Okay, this video is for those of you who want to set up an Aeries gradebook for the first time. So this video will cover setting up your gradebook, going through the menu for the different options, categories, weighting your grades or your assignments, adding students to your gradebook, going over the final marks, the rules section, and backing it up. So let's get started. You'll sign into your Aeries gradebook, and then you'll come up here to the top and click on Add Gradebook. First thing you want to do is name it. And then you want to check the box for each of the trimesters. You don't want to check year because it's for the whole year. It doesn't break it up into the trimesters for easy import to report cards. So you want to make sure that you check each of the trimesters. If you decide later that you don't want the gradebook, you can always delete it. It's not difficult. So I always suggest just checking all 3 trimesters. To delete the gradebook, you would go into Gradebook and then go to the edit, and you see right here where it says delete, you can just delete it. So if you don't want it for a certain trimester, you can delete that trimester. So once you've created your gradebook, as I said, there's a menu at the top, and the first menu item is options. In options, the check mark for applying assignment scores immediately is the only box that's checked. You can leave it just like this. It works fine for elementary school. It's just basic because elementary school doesn't have the parent portal. You don't need to worry about whether you want to hide your overall score because you don't have all the assignments in yet. You don't have to worry about including the overall mark. However, if the district ever decides to go to parent portal for elementary, which as far as I know, there's no plan for that, you can go ahead and go back and explore some of these items. One that I do want to point out is weighting the scores of your assignments by category. You can actually do that in categories right here, and I'm going to go over that in a second. The other weighting of assignments is formative and summative. The program identifies every single assignment you create as either formative or a summative assignment. You don't have to weight it so that summative assignments are weighted more heavily than the formative, but it is an identifier. But if you did want to, you would just click this box right here. And once you do that, it will ask you your formative percent, what do you want that to be? And let's see, sorry, I have to raise this one first. So let's say you wanted your summative to be worth 80, then your formatives would be 20. And you can change this to whatever you want, but I would suggest not doing that. It's going to complicate things. Just kind of go with a basic gradebook until you're more experienced. The next item we're going to go over is categories. So you don't have to weight your assignment categories, but they suggest you create categories. So you could create the category homework, you could create the category in class assignments and maybe projects. Maybe a third category could be quizzes and tests. And you could save this the way that it is. Everything is going to be worth the same value. But let's say you really don't want homework to be as weighted or as important as quizzes and tests. You'd really like to make this just basically insignificant but accountable. So you would click the weighting box. And once you do that, you're going to have to assign a percent to each of the categories. And this little warning right here tells you if you don't, the assignments will not be imported to your report card. You can create assignments, but the program won't know what kind of a grade to give it, so it won't import. So right here, we could make homework maybe 5%, and in class maybe 35%. And then the remaining 60 we could give to tests and quizzes. And so now you see the warning went away. It's at 100%. Again, you would have to save. You don't have to weight this if you don't want to. You can always uncheck the box and it will unweight them. So that's weighting your categories of assignments. The next item is assignments, and I'll be doing a separate video for that because it is a little involved. Now we need to add students. So you go to manage students to add them. You have none in your gradebook right now. So it says you need to add them. So you click on add students and your entire roster will appear. Let's say you have a student who goes to the Learning Center. You don't assign their language arts grade. The Learning Center does. You would drop that student, not add him or her, and then add all students. Close the window, and then let's say the situation changes. So here's your roster, and that student who you did not add appears at the bottom. You can always re-add that student back in. When you click all 3 trimesters, you'll notice the entire year shows up here. If you don't, it will only show up for the date of that one trimester that you added. So it's beneficial to add all 3 trimesters. If not, when you go back and add the second trimester, it could have changed, but as of last year, a lot of teachers had trouble with this because the end date didn't align with the trimester. So they had to go in and manually, right here, change the date for every single student. That's kind of a pain in the neck. So I always suggest just go ahead and do all 3 trimesters. And if you decide you don't need the grade book, then by all means, just go ahead and delete it. It's much easier to do that there. All right, so we have all our students. Let's go to final marks. If you're a 3rd through 5th grade teacher, this is set up for you perfectly because you use the 4, 3, 2, 1. But if you're a kindergarten, 1st or 2nd grade teacher, you don't use the 4. So you need to change this one right here to 100. And this one right here, 75, 74, 99, 60. So the only thing you really need to change, you need to change this to 100%. This you'll have to get rid of. So you just take away the 1, change that to a 0, and save your changes. So this is the format for your kinder, 1st, and 2nd grade teachers. You need the 1, 2, 3, or 3, 2, 1. Narrative grades, we do not use narrative grades. I don't really know how or why you would need narrative grades. Maybe if a student was, maybe the STEP program where they have severe learning disabilities, they might use narrative grades as opposed to the 4, 3, 2, 1, but I'm not sure if they're using that. Rules, I can't imagine any rule other than this one. And that rule would be to drop the lowest score or drop the 2 lowest scores of homework or an in-class project or the lowest score of a quiz by percent. You could do negative weight, but we're not weighting, so we don't need that. Percent score would work fine, and replace it with nothing, the average score that they have or the best score they have. That's really the only rule I can think of. If you can come up with a different rule, I would be more than happy to hear what it is. So that's rules. You don't have to use it if you don't want to, but it's there for you. Backups. This is the last part of the menu that I'm going to go over. You want to back up your grade book, and it's that quick. So anytime you put in scores, you just come to the backups and click backup, and it does it that fast. Restore is used for if something happens and you want to restore it to, let's say you were off by 1 in entering your class scores. You could restore it to your previous backup, and it'll give you which backup date you want to use. So that's Gradebook, setting them up. Go ahead and when you're ready, you've got your Gradebook set up. You can watch the video for entering your assignments and your scores. By the way, if you did want to go from creating this one to creating another gradebook, you would go up here to the top as another menu, and you would go to your dashboard. There's the gradebook, and you would click add a gradebook, and you would do the same thing. You just click math, click all 3 trimesters, and save. And you would go through the same steps that I just showed you. But as you can see, here are your 2 gradebooks. You can see future terms. So here are the gradebooks that you set up for your 2nd and 3rd trimester. Also, this is your layout. You could do tiles And this is where you would go to navigate entering your scores by assignment, student, or class. If you went to list, it's listed like this, and you would click the details this way. I suggest that you keep it in the table view just because everything is visible until you get more proficient with it. So here's where you would manage it if you wanted to change your weighting, if you wanted to add assignments, and right here's where you enter your scores. And I'll be going over that information in the next video. So I hope this helped. If you need any more support, my extension is 5924. You can book.me is the access link. It's at the bottom of my signature and my emails to schedule an appointment for me to come out and help you one-on-one. So have a great day and happy gradebook creating.